In 1812, it was time for a new president election. President Madison, shown here, wanted to be elected for another 4 years. To get elected, he needed the support of the party of the ordinary people in the western and southern states. To get their support, President Madison agreed to declare war on Britain. Britain did not want a war with the United States. When Britain heard of plans for war, they stopped attacking American ships and taking U.S. sailors. But news of these changes by Britain did not reach the United States for a couple of weeks. By then, it was too late. President Madison had asked Congress to declare war on Britain. Most of the Northerners were opposed to the war, but because both Western and Southern states were in favor of the war, the declaration of war passed. In June of 1812, Madison signed a declaration of war against Britain. The war was called the War of 1812. Many New England business people felt that the war was not good. An anti war group of wealthy business people in New York encouraged DeWitt Clinton, who was governor of New York, to run against Madison for president during the election of 1812. Governor Clinton, who was opposed to the war, got many of the votes in the North. Clinton won in all the states north of Virginia, except Vermont and Pennsylvania. But Madison still won re-election because of his support in the South and the West. Effects of the War of 1812. The War of 1812 was not won as easily as the war hawks expected it would be. The United States had only 16 ships in its navy to fight the world's largest navy. The United States Army had only 6,700 soldiers compared to the many thousands for Britain. In 1812, American troops attacked Canada at three places: Detroit, Niagara Falls, and Montreal. Americans had assumed the Canadians wanted to stop being a colony of Britain. Americans were surprised that the people of Canada did not want to be freed from Britain like their war hawks expected. The attacks on Canada failed, but American soldiers did set fire to important government buildings in the city of York, Canada. Later in the war, British and Canadian soldiers got even by setting wars to important government buildings in Washington, D.C. One effect of the War of 1812: Native American armies were defeated. Major battles between United States soldiers and Native Americans took place in the area that is now the state of Michigan. British supported Native Americans who won battles against the United States. The Shawnee chief, Tecumseh, shown here, was named a general in the British Army, and his troops won several battles. The combined British and Native American force under Tecumseh's command had its headquarters in a fort on Lake Erie near Detroit. Supplies for the British and Native Americans came by boat from Canada across Lake Erie. During 1813, American troops built ships at the other end of Lake Erie, sailed across the lake, and attacked the British ships that were protecting and supplying the fort at Detroit. The Americans won the sea battle, and their captain, Oliver Perry, sent out a famous message of victory: "We have met the enemy, and they are ours." After the Americans gained control of Lake Erie, General Tecumseh could no longer get supplies. Lack of supplies forced General Tecumseh and his troops to leave the fort. William Henry Harrison, a general in the American Army, followed Tecumseh's army into Canada. The two armies fought at the Battle of Thames, and when Tecumseh was killed on the battlefield, the Americans won. Harrison became a national hero and was elected president in 1840. Without Tecumseh's leadership, Native Americans in that area could not gather large armies together to fight the U.S. anymore. Another tribe in the Native American Confederation, the Creeks, lived in the South in an area that is now eastern Alabama. The Creeks and U.S. soldiers fought many bloody battles. A Tennessee officer, Colonel Andrew Jackson took command of the American troops in the Creek War. In 1814, Jackson got help from a number of Choctaw and Cherokee bands to fight against their traditional rivals, the Creeks. After Jackson's troops won a victory at the Battle of Horseshoe Bend, the leader of the Creeks surrendered. That surrender signaled the end of the Native American armies east of the Mississippi River. One of the main effects of the War of 1812 was the destruction of the last of the Native American armies that had been trying to hold back white settlers in the western lands. Native Americans were forced to sign treaties that gave away still more of their lands. Those treaties opened more land to farmers. The treaties benefited the party of ordinary people who wanted more land.